What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Bitcoin Stock Show. I am your host, Colin Harper, editor-in-chief of Blockspace Media. And today, we've got a great show lined up with one Dr. Yu Wei Young, the chief economist at BitMining. We're going to be digging into some of the business decisions that BitMining has made over the past few years. Some of you may or may not know, but they used to operate the BTC.com mining pool after acquiring it a few years ago. They sold it off recently, and they've been focusing on not just straight pure play mining for their own operations, but also some hosting facilities that they run in Texas. And they also purchased B Computing a few years back and have been manufacturing Dogecoin and Litecoin miners. Ever the present topic, considering Elon Musk is always obsessed with this thing, and Dogecoin is now pumping. Dogecoin mining is pretty profitable right now for those who have the right setup, but we will let Dr. Young go into all of that for us. And without further ado, I would like to add him to the stage. Dr.
Hello,
Young,
Colin.
thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. Doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy to get y'all on the show. BitMining, not a stock that we usually cover in our universe of things, but one of the, I would say, more entrenched publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies. Like I was saying in the introduction, the history goes way back. Originally started as was an online gaming site, 500.com, rebranded to BitMining, I believe, in 2021, and BitMining has had its fingers in a lot of different verticals in the Bitcoin mining industry. So maybe to kick it off, could you just give a quick intro that goes a little more in depth from my own about BitMining, what y'all do, what your kind of thesis is for approaching the Bitcoin mining industry?
Sure. Thank you for calling us. And the background and history of the company has long dated. It started with basically internet company in 2003, and then becoming more into the online lottery gaming business in 2010s, like started 2012, and then basically ended 2016, 17-ish. And then the crypto thing started mostly like from 18, 19, and then transitioned over to US 2021. And then we were used to be the largest 435 megawatts operation in China, Chengdu, before the China ban, before we moved to US. We used to be the largest, especially in the hydro space. We use the hydropower, and then moved to US. We have mostly in Ohio. Our facilities in Ohio data center, Akron, Ohio, which is the Goodyear facility that next to it. And then we also had a small operation in Texas as well, and that's mostly in data center. But we also have, as you mentioned, we also had the mining pool business, which we acquired as BTC.com, and operating in that for a couple of years before we started off. I'll explain the reason later why. And then we also have the manufacturing and research about the mining ASICs, mostly the Dogecoin, Litecoin is the more success, but we also had some success in the Ethereum miners and also Bitcoin miners. Ether miners maybe no longer available because of the transition to POS Ethereum, but we also had some of those miners manufactured before. So we do have a wide range of the capacity in the ASIC space. And in terms of long term, we definitely looking to kind of expand, not only in the Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, but also expanding into more data center space in general. So that's kind of the longer term play too.
So a lot of directions we can take, and I want to touch on all of these different things. You mentioned the site in Ohio, the site in Texas, you mentioned the Dogecoin and Litecoin miners, and you mentioned the Bitcoin mining pool. I want to start with BTC.com because I think this is an interesting play by BitMining. BitMining purchased BTC.com from the BitDeer Group in April of 2021, or that's when the acquisition was announced. I don't know when exactly it was closed. Only to sell it off at the end of last year to a company called Esports Wim Limited. What was the rationale for buying the mining pool? And then going forward, why was it sold?
Sure. So a couple of years ago when we were buying it, it's mostly considering the domain value. Basically, that's the one of the top domain in the Bitcoin space. So
Mm,
BTC.com itself is very powerful. We think we might use that for a lot of businesses, not only in mining pool. So that was the rationale, kind of foundational rationale of the core belief of the domain itself. And also the mining pool business, as we see that, as you mentioned, the vertical integration in mining pool, mining data center, the mining machines. So basically covers everything in this kind of industry, which will give us some edge in collaborating all those angles as a vertical integrator in the space. We might find kind of capturing the value and benefits and profits that others are capturing at that time. So we can kind of capture the whole value chain. So that was the rationale on two things. Basically, one is vertical integration. The second is the domain value, and then we can do with it. So that's kind of the beginning. And later on, um, we find that it's the margin is very thin, um, and actually the cost of operating it, especially as a public traded company, since we have a lot of crypto assets coming in and out with clients and a lot of pool partners, and the value is in the billions of dollars of crypto assets. So auditing that and being compliant with all the regulatory bodies is very expensive and eating up our margins quite a bit. And especially after the 2022 Luna, FTX, and Three Arrows, all that crash, our auditors even didn't want to cover us.
right.
And then the ones who want to cover us kind of asking much more price, which even in the kind of the winter time of crypto, the margin's low, the expense is high. So it just doesn't make sense to maintain that part. And also what we thought about the integration of verticals, basically, I mean, it introduced the customers, many smaller wells and retail clients who are using the pool, maybe who those having hundreds of machines or 20, 30 machines. I mean, those are a majority of the kind of the pool users, and also some of the larger pool users are already our clients or connections. So the expansion of client base on that business development sense is not as high promising as we thought earlier on. So that's kind of the core rationale of why we sell it, and also to capture some cash in order to kind of encounter through the winter too.
Yeah, so the regulatory and compliance burden was pretty hefty, and I would imagine that that's not really something that's um, favorable to shoulder when your margins are so thin, right? I mean, by BTC.com was a FPPS pool, if I recall correctly,
Yes,
and
yes,
and as the Miner Mag reported in this article that I'm looking at right here in 2022, the revenue was big. It was 593.2 million, but the cost of those revenues because of the payout structure, FPPS, and you have to pay out your miners was 591.5 million. So
correct.
margins razor thin there and not really worth it, especially considering it sounds like a lot of the decision that went into purchasing it was for the domain name btc.com. Now, if I recall correctly, the sale of the mining pool itself did not include btc.com when Bitmining unloaded it, correct? And then y'all sold
Correct.
that again later, right?
Yes, we sold the domain and the mining pool separately.
How did that work? Because it sounds like it was such a selling point for you. Was that hard when you were brokering an agreement to sell it, to peel the two off? Did the
Um,
buyer also want the domain and you had to say no, we're keeping that?
I would say that buyers have similar mindset as we have 2, 3 years ago. They value the domain more than the mining pool itself. So we basically kind of the kind of when we discuss with the kind of buyers, they are okay kind of separating out the domain and also rebranding the mining pool to another name. So that kind of it's just mostly a entity change to peel off that domain, but it's mostly uh, the kind of common sense of having the domain is more powerful than the mining pool itself in
Right.
that kind of time thinking.
Can I ask a question that you may or may not be at liberty to answer? Did BTC.com, did the buyer rebrand it to SEC Pool? Am I no?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at the block history earlier today, and I couldn't help but notice that SEC Pool booted up a few months after that acquisition would have closed. But who knows? Maybe some more digging that I can do. There's probably an easy answer to that somewhere, and I just haven't looked at it yet. But kind of shifting gears away from the mining pool side of things to another business that was acquired by BitMining, B Computing. So B Computing is an ASIC manufacturing company that BitMining acquired, and that was in May of 2022. I have in my notes. And BitMining through B Computing manufactures Dogecoin and Litecoin miners, specifically Scrypt ASICs. What was behind the business decision here? Like, why did BitMining decide to go for this ASIC manufacturing business rather than try to break into something like SHA-256 ASIC manufacturing?
Sure. So the Bitcoin miners is a very competitive space, and like with all the major players, it's hard to break into their competition. And Litecoin, Dogecoin, we've actually made quite a bit of money on the 2021 Bitcoin Dogecoin run with Elon Musk creating all that. So thanks to Elon. And we also got a similar pattern recently with the Doge run as well. So that kind of direction of meme coins and also the competition very high in the Bitcoin space kind of navigated us into the Dogecoin, Litecoin mining ASICs, and that has been working out well since that space is not as crowdedly competitive, and gives us kind of relatively good return when time comes, like right now.
So, if I'm hearing correctly, the 2021 Dogecoin rally, sparked by Elon Musk's strange obsession with the first meme coin, kind of caught BitMining's eye because you were making money mining it, and you thought, well, we should just go ahead and buy a company that makes these ASICs. There's an opportunity here.
Yes.
What has been the biggest hurdle for BitMining in terms of purchasing this business and trying to scale it? You know, obviously the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room is Bitmain. They manufacture the L7, one of the premier Scrypt miners. Anyone entering the ASIC manufacturing business, regardless of the coin, is kind of fighting an uphill battle. So with that in mind, what has been one of the most challenging aspects of trying to scale that business line?
Sure. So one thing, as you mentioned, is the competition between and all like what's miners, all the other teams, majorly in the space. And the second thing is mostly with the sanctions on semiconductors that US put on to Chinese companies. Since we had a root in China, I mean, even though we're now mostly in US, but then the kind of the China route was a concern for semiconductors somehow. So that's concern of purchasing the semiconductors and doing the wafering, all that, kind of in general of trying to get in the supply chain work. And the second thing is to try to get customers. Since customers people who are into those buying ASICs, they are kind of in core belief of Bitmain miners or worse miners. So it's hard to shift their mind. That's another reason why we focus more on the Litecoin, Dogecoin, is we find that's kind of differentiator that we can kind of pitch into. And the third thing is the timing. Timing is always tricky since kind of designing and kind of the manufacturing miners takes time, like roughly 2 years is a cycle for a relatively new kind of a player. So we entered at a bull market, and then once our miners are out, it's kind of already bear market. So there's nobody hardly kind of asking for it. So
Mhm.
there's no market at all, not even for Bitcoin miners, other than sadly Dogecoin miners. So that three main things kind of put us in hold for a while of when our miners are out. So we have to kind of find a market for it. It's hard, and so we just use it for our self mining. So
Right.
we basically manufacture for ourselves, and then now we're forced into kind of using our own and compared to selling them. But it works out good since right now the Dogecoin price is high. It's even more profitable than the Bitcoin miners.
Right. And bit mining in a unique position here, something that BitDeer will find itself in soon with its seal miner, is that you can procure hash rate for script based coins below spot, right? In terms of
Yeah,
what it would actually cost to go and buy it from a competitor like Bitmain. And you have the option to either self mine with it when times are tough, like you just said, or you can go on and sell it commercially, which I think is kind of an interesting flexibility that obviously most mining companies do not have. And to your point about Dogecoin miners, we actually just published a piece in our newsletter today, the Mining Pod newsletter, and readers and listeners can find it on blockspace.media, about the rebound in ASIC prices. And we had a sales rep from Kaboom Racks tell us that L9s are going for nearly $20,000, and L7s I think are going for still a pretty penny, like 7K or something like that, which is just pretty remarkable. Obviously, altcoins have a much higher profitability than Bitcoin mining, but as a result, your capex is going to be significantly higher because of that profitability.
yes.
Um,
Just to give
well,
you a quick kind of echo on that, the return on it, the most profitable time we had in 2021 when Dogecoin went up 100 times, our kind of payback period for the machine is only 20 days. So you pay the
wow,
machine for whatever you say, 5,000, 7,000, twenty
that's
thousand, and you make it back in 20, 30 days. I
that's
mean, right
crazy.
now it's not as profitable as back then in 2021, but it's still very profitable.
You heard that, kids? Don't say shit coins never did something for someone, because that's a crazy payback period. Okay,
Yes.
moving away from the meme coins, because this is not a meme coin podcast as much as one of my co-hosts at Bitcoin Season 2, Charlie Spears, would like to make it. Um, I want to dive into Bit Digital sites and specifically why bit mining, excuse me. That's the second time I've done this Freudian slip today. I've been crunching Bit Digital's numbers for Q3. But so for bit mining, I want to dive into why y'all put all of your chips in Ohio for your self-owned site. I think that Ohio has been one of those kind of dark horses in the US hash rate race. You know, everyone talks about Texas. A few years ago, CleanSpark or a year or so ago, CleanSpark burst onto the scene and put Georgia on the map in terms of people paying attention to that being a hub. But there's been a lot of activity going on in Ohio recently. Some public mining companies purchasing sites there, a lot of M&A activity. And I've talked to some miners that say it is an attractive site, not just for the fact that there is a lot of industrial land there that already have a lot of the electrical hookups and the and kind of the warehousing space that you would need to stand up a mining farm, but also the PJM power market is very favorable for mining in terms of things like demand response and curtailment. So, what were some of the considerations that bit mining weighed when they decided to stand up a site there?
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of factors into it. You're right. Texas is definitely good. It's cheap power, a lot of good environment, and we had a small site there. We recently exited out uh, 3, 4 months ago, um, but we right now focusing on mostly in Ohio. One, it's cold, so it's good for cooling. Since we're air cooling, we're not liquid cooling data center. So air cooling is especially needing kind of high wind and cold, where the kind of the Ohio fits that criteria that very well. And PGM, I would say PGM is more stable in prices compared to ERCOT in Texas. Since ERCOT Texas price of electricity can go up 100 times a day, which only happens rarely in Ohio. we would say like the price goes up from 5-6 cents to 10-20 cents. Rarely, but not that kind of common. But basically 5-6 cents to 10 cents is commonplace in Texas. So even though it's good for capturing that revenue of the demand response curtailment, but kind of curtailing that much too often, it's also not working that well for the machines. I mean, turning on off. It's wearing the machines off quite a bit. So we had to fix the machines here and there. And sometimes it's pretty profitable with the curtailment revenue, but with that high cost of kind of fixing the fence, the power cords, and all the general fixings, it's not worth that much anymore. Especially, I would say that after the 2022 Russia-Ukraine war lifted, the energy price high, the demand response revenue is pretty high, and then the whole kind of the network of supply, power supply, has realized that, and then kind of reduced that revenue program a little bit. So it's not as profitable as anymore compared to 2022.
Why is it that Ohio has more stable power prices compared to Texas? Is that because Texas has so much renewable penetration with wind and solar? And it's
Correct.
basically just that? Because I know Ohio is largely hydroelectric from Niagara Falls, I think. Am I wrong in thinking that? And also fossil fuels?
I would say our grid is 1/3 renewables, like
Okay.
you mentioned, the hydros and the wind and the solars, all that, and 1/3 nuclear and 1/3 natural gas.
Okay. That makes sense.
So yeah.
Okay, we're gonna do a quick break for some ad rolls, and then we'll be right back. And I have some questions about the hosting market post halving and what you think will happen now that Bitcoin's on a run. And then we have some unsavory questions about some stuff of bit mining being in the news. But let's go to a quick ad roll before we get to the rest of our questions.
In the competitive world of Bitcoin mining, one name stands out: CleanSpark, America's Bitcoin miner. At CleanSpark, efficiency isn't just a goal, it's our standard. Our sophisticated facilities are built and led by expert teams who care about Bitcoin and the communities we work in. Scale? We've mastered it. Our large-scale operations have set us apart in the industry as examples of community-oriented building. Our track record speaks for itself. We navigate the complexities of the new economy with precision and with skill, continuously achieving operational milestones. Curious about how we do it? We invite you to discover the story behind CleanSpark's success at cleanspark.com.
Today's show is brought to you by Digital Shovel. Digital Shovel is a leading manufacturer of modular mining pods as well as PDUs and switchgears. Unlike many other competitors, their product is designed and manufactured in North America with a complete UL inspection on the entire unit, not just individual components. Additionally, Digital Shovel is one of the most vertically integrated manufacturers of over 75,000 square feet of sheet metal shop, SMT and wave solder PCB assembly, as well as final assembly all under one roof in Toronto, Canada. Their price point leads the industry when compared to products with rates as low as $69,000 per megawatt for a complete data center with smart PDUs and switchgears. To learn more, visit digitalshovel.com. All right, and we are back. Okay, so Yue, I've got a question about the hosting market because we have seen from public filings of some of the leading Bitcoin mining companies that their hosting segments are contracting currently. The ones that come to mind are Core Scientific, as well as Hut 8 and BitDeer. Now, there are multiple considerations with all of these different companies as to why that's happening. Core Scientific is obviously moving towards an HPC-focused business. But it would stand to reason that hosting currently, at least before the recent pop in Bitcoin's price, is not that attractive, considering Bitcoin's price, or considering the halving and that hash price recently hit an all-time low after the halving of about $37 per petahash per day. So just kind of a two-front question. how did the halving impact the hosting market? And do you think that the current Bitcoin price recovery will help ensure that it remains a feature of these Bitcoin mining companies going forward? Will it change anything that the halving affected?
Sure. I would definitely say that having has put a kind of quite pressure on our hosting business, kind of especially prices too, and because the margins comparatively low when Bitcoin was sitting at 60 something K during May to August, I'll say, and that's exactly right after the halving, and basically the miners who have the machines are asking for a much lower price that we can't hold, especially in summer. The energy price is high, so putting us and also the mining machine owners, both are at kind of squeezy profit margins. So it's a tough market during the summer for hosting kind of expansion. And the prices was lower. I would say 10% lower. Hosting price was 10% lower than before halving, and it's not jumped back up that much yet. I mean, people are watching right now. They would generally see if the price sustain for a month before they actually move big. And also, it's a matter factor of that. It's physical machines, so they have to move and purchase and all that. It takes time, and then the shipment takes time. So that adds another month. So I would say we might see 2 months of kind of watching and kind of waiting for the shipment, all that, of miners before we see a hosting back up, kind of the effect after the halving. So that's the timing too.
Do you think that the hosting market in the US will survive over the current halving epoch? I mean, obviously the next generation machines will help margins, but even so, I mean, I would have to imagine that if someone's paying, what, 7 cents all in on for like a good, contract, is still going to have problems eking out a margin and ROIing those machines.
I would say the newer generation machines will not have a problem. The problem is with the older generation machines, the S19s, Pros, and XPs, and all those like 2021 versions of those type of machines are at very thin margin. So they are looking to going to South America, Africa, other countries, and also those miners are not as kind of high value, so they don't mind of kind of less safety country, like more considerable. They don't care about, they don't really scared about those kind of crimes, anything that much, if their miners are stolen or kind of robbed or whatever. But for the newer generation machines, S19, S21s and T21s, high valuable, so they want to be kind of keep it in more safe area, and that's US. And with the Trump election win, that helps with the mining kind of sector too, as he's promised basically boosting that kind of the whole sector.
All Bitcoin made in the USA, that kind of, very Trumpian promise, right?
Yes, and no additional tax regarding crypto mining. So that's big plus for kind of helping the industry too. So I would say the US will continue to grow in the Bitcoin mining space, but just not the older generation machine. They'll start to fade out to other countries.
Do you think that the US's hash rate dominance has reached its peak, or do you think we're going to continue to see more hash rate shored up in the US?
I would say it will be a contained growth. So it'll be
okay.
Yes.
So we haven't seen the full extent of US hash rate dominance. You think we go up even further from here, depending on who you ask, and there's no really good way of measuring this. The US is anywhere from 40 to 50% of global hash rate currently.
Correct. So I would say a couple of reasons. Thing one is Trump win. Thing two is the energy price is lower. too in US, especially the crude oil and natural gas kind of lead to eventually power price, since it's mostly natural gas based and nuclear based. I mean, some wind and solar, but let's say it's 2/3 are traditional energy based. So the low energy price is helping US kind of keeping that growing hash rate. So there are two main reasons.
Do you think that there's any chance of mining coming back to China in any meaningful way? Like, do you think that the provincial bans that we saw that drove hash rate out will eventually be reversed and the CCP might change its tune? Because the Chinese are deploying a lot of energy assets right now. And it seems to me that it would be advantageous to have an energy sponge like Bitcoin mining come in there and like soak up the excess energy that they're going to be producing.
I would say a lot of people are speculating that's coming up soon, but it's hard for the CCP to reverse something kind of meaningfully. They might become less stringent on kind of cracking down things, but they will still do if it's getting outrageous. So I would say it used to be very stringent on kind of checking on things, monitoring, investigating, and then even punishing, kind of criminalizing those things. I said those will lose a little bit, but definitely not a full bloom coming back. No.
So you think more operates in a gray ways, where the government has kind of eased off some of its scrutiny, like you were just saying. It's likely that maybe they won't fully reverse their ban, but they might just be okay with certain content. Am I understanding that correctly?
Right. Only small spots here and there, but not a wide range.
Got it. Okay. Recently, which is the settlement of a Department of Justice against Justice in the U.S. alleged bribery on behalf of mining, and it's mining CEO Xing in $4 million in exchange. So it sounds like, based on this settlement, a lot of consideration here was put in terms of bribery, or alleged bribery. Is there any color this?
So first of all, the DOJ SEC investigation has nothing to do with our current business in crypto mining. It was based on our old business in the online lotteries. That was back in 2017. So that case was actually already settled in Japan back in 2019, but was later picked up by the US SEC and DOJ, basically saying it's also foreign corruption action, so they have to scrutinize us as well. So the team who did this wrongdoing was mostly gone. So they were doing the kind of the online business.
And was a former CEO of 500.com, correct?
Correct.
And so I should clarify to your point, per law is related to and the gambling and gaming business. This has nothing to do with Bit. 500.
Yeah, it was based on the kind of old CEO. I mean, several CEO back, and was in Japan. Who is, I would say it's not intentionally, but it was both basically, the edge between business development versus bribery. So we had some middlemen kind of in Japan who were trying to help us with the business development, and then dragged the company into bribery situation that we're not carefully monitoring and getting into. And like I said, the case was already settled in Japan in 2019, and then the old CEO was also kind of enforced, and people involved, the kind of the middleman was also in prison, all that, and it's just been long kind of lingering effect between the U.S. Investigators compared to Japan's. So basically, they put more foreign corruption as a U.S. listed company. We have to deal with that, and then basically we were facing and also paying fine to kind of settle that, and we recognize the wrongdoing we had back then.
The Japanese legal system.
Sorry, say it again.
Why do you think the DOJ owes, or why they issued their own action if this had been settled in Japan?
Sorry, I'm not sure if internet is good enough.
Can you hear?
Yeah, it's kind of broken up.
Okay, give me 1 second here. Okay, how about now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My question was, why do you think the DOJ pursued its own legal action if this happened in Japan and BitMining, or sorry, 500.com had already settled there?
Yes, so it's actually the general practice DOJ has, because we are a US listed company on New York Stock Exchange. So they have a rule that US companies who cannot do corruption or bribery actions in other countries called FCPA, so foreign corruption action in other countries. And we are basically under investigation under that law that DOJ has. And SEC basically similarly fine us because we're a public traded company. We cannot do wrongdoing things like that in other countries. So that's kind of the regulatory structure DOJ and SEC has for US listed company, even though doing wrong things in other countries.
Got it. So BitMining filed a 12B-25 form with the SEC mentioning that it would be delayed in reporting its 2023 financials as a result of this investigation. I couldn't help but notice BitMining has also not published any 10Qs for this year. What is that also related to the investigation? Why have there been? Is that
Yes?
okay?
The investigation has been for almost 3 years now, finally settled. And this year is particularly important as we're settling, since basically discussing the details and then working on the fines and payment. So that's where pushing off kind of the postpone the kind of filing of the 10Qs report.
Okay. So now that this is settled, we should expect some financial reporting, some catch up from BitMining about
Correct.
their quarterly. Okay. That makes sense. I was curious as to what was going on there. Okay, Dr. Young, this has been great. Just one more question before we wrap up. Specifically, with now that Bitcoin is encroaching on 100K, what are some of your predictions for the coming year, specifically as it relates to Bitcoin mining?
You mean the price or the mining itself?
Not the price. As much as I would love to, we try to stay away from that because I also think that people forget that every cycle there's this kind of irrational exuberance that goes on, and people always overestimate what the price is going to be. Or I would say on average, most people do. And it's the same thing on the way down when Bitcoin is getting its, tail kicked in by a bear market. People think that it's going to zero. And then when it's mooning, they think that it's going to 1 million every cycle. So just with regards to how this current Bitcoin mining market, given the rise in Bitcoin, how it will evolve over the next year, and what effects you think the current bull market will have. you might also extend this kind of into what you said earlier about how you think a Trump presidency will reflect on Bitcoin mining and the Bitcoin ecosystem in general.
Sure. The crypto mining or Bitcoin mining is mostly kind of considered as not good practice. I mean, it's not good for energy. It's not good for financial system. It's not good for anything. So the kind of the bad reputation has changed. I mean, since we are hiring local people, we're making commitment to the local towns, and we're kind of making the kind of used to be abandoned counties and villages now kind of back into industrial levels, and the miners kind of bringing back up the reputation not only by ourselves but also now with the Trump presidency. So it will become a more formalized kind of corrected reputation from now on, and also with energy become less critical about us, not only the kind of the crowd, but also the energy companies before. Since sometimes they, especially during the winter, kind of 22, 23, there were some default payments of to the electricity companies, kind of putting the whole nationwide reputation of crypto miners are so volatile and requiring very high deposits, otherwise will not supply power. So that situation will become less of a problem right now. Not only because the price is high, kind of government is more supportive, but also the name is and name reputation is slowly and kind of changing and prospering. So that will help with general environment, regulatory, and also the industrial and also local towns. So that's thing one. Thing two is that will kind of lead example. The U.S. is the largest nation, the richest country in the world that is supporting Bitcoin mining or the crypto industry, kind of making other countries wandering and also following into the space as well. So we've seen Argentina or other South American countries offering free energy for building up crypto miners, mining facilities, or those type of activities is happening gradually, and now is kind of booming. So in most continents, except China, as was mentioned earlier, it's probably only hidden doing things, but South America, Africa, and even Europe will be doing more, can open up the kind of discussion and also the development of crypto mining. So that will be a prospering trend going forward as US is leading it. And thing three is we've seen also kind of AI HPC data centers as a competition too. So that will I mean, those kind of, it's more of a play of in terms of capital rather than power. Since AI HPC, the scale of power consumption is only 1/100th compared to crypto mining. So that's not a kind of competition in the power side. It's more competition of the capital side. Right now, most investors are basically comparing what makes the payback period shorter, the AIs, the GPUs, or the Bitcoins or Litecoin, Dogecoins. So that's the discussion we've seen. I mean, last year, basically all AI, nobody's really interested in investing in crypto data center or crypto mining ASICs. Right now, the discussion come back up, comparing AIs with crypto again, especially with the kind of younger generation of capitals. So that's kind of the three main things I would say: the reputation, the global influence, and also the AI kind of help us as well. Just a little bit competition in the capitals.
Yeah, on all three of those points, I definitely do think that Bitcoin has entered the Overton window in terms of something that people are more comfortable with now. And I do think that a lot of the former stigma has been kind of sloughed off. I used to tell people that I work in tech or that I cover tech when I was, or I still am, but when, I was writing for CoinDesk and Bitcoin Magazine and stuff. And now I when I was writing for them, I would say, I'm a tech journalist now. I'd say that I cover Bitcoin mining, and usually people are they at least know about it, and the people who used to be hostile are kind of more curious. But
yeah, exactly.
so hopefully good things to come for 2025. But Dr. Yue Yang, thank you so much. Appreciate you tuning in. Oh yeah, go ahead and tell us where can we find this book of yours?
Yes, this is on Amazon and also on the official site of Cambridge University Press. So since this is published by Cambridge University Press and by Ken, myself, Professor Fan Zhang from Yale, and Xi Chen from NYU, Feng Zhu from Harvard. All experts from securities, tokenomics, finance, DeFi, and scalability, smart contracts, AI, and business strategies. So
Fantastic.
that's the book.
A lot bundled into that.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Yang, thank you so much. And for all of our listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in. You can find all of our content at blockspace.media. Go to the Mining Pod YouTube channel to find this and other podcasts like it. And feel free to smash that subscribe button, share it with your friends, and let us know what kind of content you would like to see going forward as we round out the year and enter 2025. But with that, we will sign off. Doctor, thank you again for joining.
Thank you, Colin, for having me. Thank you.